Thank you again for joining me this afternoon. We're talking about the different reasons people are confused about the rapture, and we're just going to talk about some general things and the reason why I believe that there's so much confusion. Of course, the enemy is against the preaching of the pre-tribulation rapture simply because of the comfort that it brings to the body itself. You know, Paul wrote over in 1 Thessalonians and 2 Thessalonians that talking about the rapture, talking about the day of Yahuwah, that we will be caught up to meet the Messiah in the air, and so shall we ever be with him. And then the last part of is actually in 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 18, the last part of the verse 18, he said for us to comfort one another with these words. See, the message of the rapture is to be comforting to the body of the Messiah. As we see the tribulation period or Daniel's 70th week on the horizon, and if anybody's paying attention, if you're a believer and you're paying attention to what's going on in the world today, you can see that there's trouble on the horizon, that there are things that have been talked about through the scriptures about this terrible time frame is upon us. And because of that, there's such an anxiety in the world today. And there's such fear that's going on today. But I've got good news for you, that if you're a believer in the Messiah and you've been born again of the Ruach HaKodesh, the good news of that the scripture teaches is that there is going to be a catching up of the believers before the day of Yahuwah occurs. And I've shared many verses concerning this and teachings. In my last sessions that I did earlier today, we read from Isaiah chapter 26. And the latter part of the verse talked about that Yahuwah was coming out to punish the earth, to punish the world for their iniquity, to bring judgment upon the earth because of their rejection of the Messiah. But the good news is that if you're born again, that we're not the object of Yahuwah's wrath. The scripture says we've not been appointed to wrath, but to obtain deliverance or salvation through Yahushua HaMashiach. And that deliverance is not just from eternal punishment, but that's deliverance from the day of Yahuwah, which the scripture talks about, that's going to come upon the whole earth to try them. And so with that good news, we know that the message of the rapture is a message of comfort. It's a message of hope, especially as we're living in the time frame that we are, because there's so much fear out there, that our Father loves us so much, he wants us to know that we will not have to go through that time frame. And so, but it's also a message that we can share with others that aren't prepared, to alert them that the fact is that this day is going to come upon the earth, a day of judgment. And if they truly aren't born again, if they're not sure of their salvation, that they need to make sure of that, because the scripture says today is the day of salvation. Don't put off in neglecting your eternal security in Yahushua HaMashiach and waiting till the tribulation comes on the earth, because it'll be a terrible time frame. It's going to be a difficult time frame. And so take what the scripture has to say as being the truth, and receive salvation, as today is the day of salvation. Until next time, shalom.